This is an excellent program on virtual enabled learning with two veterans of the industry from the e-learning industry, Emma King, who is now the VP of e-learning at InExpo, and also Janet Clary, who's the technology editor at leading magazine in the e-learning industry. E-learning is just called e-learning, isn't it?
E-learning magazine.
E-learning magazine. So I'm going to turn it over to them. I'd like to remind the virtual audience that you can send in your questions at hashtag VES190W, and I will monitor those for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. And welcome, everybody, and welcome to our virtual audience as well. Great to have you here with us to talk about how to empower your sessions and enable a learning experience that can expand the audience engagement and, create an impactful training event that could be perhaps provided within a virtual space. Janet and I have known each other for many years and in fact met virtually. We actually worked in the same organisation for at least a year before we actually met at a physical event, and it's a great way to engage in a learning space. And Janet's really been a great leader for me in the social space. So across to you, Janet.
Great, thanks. Just kind of want to find out where people are from a little bit. Can we put up the virtual audience here? And if you could just tell us where you're from. I came in from snowy New York. It was 4 degrees yesterday morning when I came in, and the snow was blinding. And I got a call from my children's school today saying that all after-school activities were canceled. So bonus that I'm here because I don't want to be home with them. Right? So glad to be here in Las Vegas. And hello to everyone in the virtual environment and joining us today. So our session today, we're going to keep it really loose here, okay? And this is really one of the goals we have of these type of events, to keep them engaging, is not to, and let me just go back and say, if I say event again, you can boo me. It's not an event. We're trying to get away from event thinking. This is an experience, this is a conversation, and each and every time when you do a hybrid event like this, it's a little bit boo. It's a little bit different, okay? You can come away knowing a lot more. Each event. Thank you. If we say it enough, see, it stops. So a loose agenda here. Just to remind you here, we all own this session. I'm not going to sit here, and Emma's not going to sit here and talk for 40 minutes. We ask that you talk amongst yourselves, that you use Twitter. Virtual audience, certainly, please use Twitter so that we can talk to you. And just take a minute here and switch places. Close your eyes. Put yourself in where you would be if you were attending this virtually. So you're home in your pajamas, or you're at work, or you're somewhere. Close your eyes. What's happening right now? You're looking at this slide, right? Or you're looking at us and you're listening. So how would we engage here? We ask where people are from just for starters. And where are you from? Just go ahead and yell it out. Woo! Los Angeles. Great. Las Vegas. You came a long way. Across town. Emma, I'm going to let you talk to this particular definition, and we're going to ask you to define what is a virtual enabled learning program. What does that say to you?
When I think of a virtual enabled learning program, I don't necessarily think about my 40-hour classroom event that I have taken and placed online. I'm not thinking about my WebEx. I'm not thinking about my go-to training. I'm thinking about a program that is enabled within a virtual environment, and it is something that engages me in different ways. It may contain a 30-minute webcast. It may contain video. It may contain a video breakout session. It may contain some social media chatting using Twitter, using Facebook, using LinkedIn. Essentially, what we're looking to do is break up any concept of delivering training in the mechanism of being pushed, so content being pushed to you, and actually create a collaborative learning environment where people can be engaged. So that's my definition. What's someone else's definition? Has anyone got a definition that they think of a virtually enabled learning program should be or could be? Have you attended one?
Who's attended a virtual enabled program for learning? Anyone? No.
Anyone been on a WebEx session? Sat there for an hour, 2 hours? Okay. Okay, some hands raised. And when you were in that session, what level of interactivity did you have? Were you asked to raise your hands? Sir? Okay, so a gentleman just said he had lots of activity in other screens. So essentially you were listening to what was being portrayed to you, and you were checking your email perhaps, you were perhaps finishing the presentation for, you know, the important meeting the next day. Is that a common theme here? Yeah?
Let's see what the virtual audience has to say.
Let's see what the virtual audience is saying. Okay, so we've got, it needs to be quick and interactive. And we've got someone here from snowy cold Chicago. But yes, absolutely, quick and interactive. Having a virtual session that enables you to be engaged really means that you need to be switching content rather rapidly. You need to be asking people to be interactive with you. I actually tend to think about a virtual learning environment as thinking about using a radio show concept. If you think about what engages you as you're driving to work, sitting in traffic, and you're listening to a radio show, you've got two co-hosts generally, a male and a female. They're bantering with each other. They are asking you to call in, give your feedback, answer questions based upon content that you're delivering. You have news feeds that come in that break the delivery and the content that's coming through. You've got media such as music that gets played. There are competitions, there are quizzes, and you know there's also now the online component where people are asked to go and place their questions online for the radio host to then read through. Think about your virtual enabled learning programs in exactly the same way. Leverage all of the tools that are available to you within the virtual event platforms to bring that level of community and engagement and actually pull some of the content from the audience that you have, be it virtual or be it physical.
Let's talk about what it is not. Switch back to slide here. What is it not? I've seen some sessions where we approach these and what we're doing is duplicating the classroom. Has anyone had that experience where you're in a virtual environment and it feels a lot like the classroom? So you enter into an environment and you actually sit at a desk and you watch something on a screen and you raise your hand. And I think there's some missed opportunities here to create more engagement, to create more interesting programs, because heck, if you can be an avatar that's a unicorn sitting on a tree or hang gliding, why wouldn't you be? What kind of a different experience might that be than sitting at a table and watching something? Not that that doesn't work. I don't want to say that never works, because for some situations that might be the best solution for that problem, is to attend that way. So really it's not about a duplication of the classroom. When you have attended a session that was engaging in a room like this or in a virtual environment, what happened there that made it engaging?
It's relevant information.
Relevant information.
Sharing with other people.
So relevant, sharing. Anyone else? Virtual audience?
They're still on your last question.
Wow, let's hear.
What it is.
What it is.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. I don't have my glasses.
It needs to keep you engaged, that you learn by doing rather than being lectured. That's actually something that's very key here. You know, if you think about how you learn, how many people learn by doing? How many people learn by on-the-job experience, work experience? How many people don't learn by listening to content being pushed at them? Yeah? So it's about engaging people to learn by creating exercises, by creating environments where people can actually do what you're asking them to learn. And that's something that's very key. Great insight there.
Thanks. Let's go back to the slides. So technology has changed the way we get together. Now, why would we do virtual enabled programs? Why are we doing this today, having a hybrid event with having a virtual audience and having you here? Or why would you do that at your organization? What kind?
People who are in various regions, different places, that you can't bring them all together in one location.
So distributed learners. What else? So smaller chunks.
For better retention, that's key. How about when your experts are dispersed? You know, it's very expensive for you to actually travel to events such as this, where you've got 3 or 4 experts that essentially have key knowledge that you want to share. You know, what about if your experts are dispersed? Does that play a part?
Now, there's some things we need to point out about the virtual environment that's quite different, and these are the things we need to address. And I think that this is kind of what's hidden, or the hidden curriculum is not only the technology, but some of these things. What's happening? No physical cues. We don't know what our virtual environment is doing now. Perhaps they're looking at other screens. We hope not, but I bet you someone is, and listening. So we don't have the physical cues. So this is why we ask questions every 2 to 3 minutes. That's why we keep things going the best that we can in these type of environments. It's asynchronous, can be. Disembodied, anonymous. Has anyone been looking at, say, the Twitter feed while they're here, maybe up on the screen? A lot of times you don't know who that is. That's very anonymous. And that can be troublesome. You can get some really inappropriate comments when you're at an open environment like this. Not so much in the corporate environment because you have a captive audience. But that creates some unique opportunities to really build community because you have ongoing training, lifelong learning in a corporate environment versus a one-time situation that you're just trying to develop on either end.
Interesting feedback here. Someone's saying on Twitter, Jen's Cafe saying, you know, you hear from people you wouldn't typically because they can't or won't travel. So it actually widens the audience. It widens the audience and it gives you greater destinations to deliver your content to.
Great, we can go back to the slides.
Back to the slides. Thank you.
And it's text-based, and of course there's a permanent record, and that also discourages some people from attending virtually. It's different if we're in here and this isn't a virtual environment, and what we say here and what happens here stays here. If you're in a virtual environment, that's permanent. So these are just some things to consider. And a lot of times this is like you're blindfolded. Has anyone ever trained online? Done an online training for employees or for customers? Even a marketing demo? Anything like that? It can be quite disconcerting, especially if you don't have two-way audio. You have no idea what's going on. So what we need to focus on is really the difference between facilitation and training. You want to speak to that point?
Absolutely. You know, as a trainer, typically what we do, we've got our set agenda of what we want to teach. And there's specific learning objects, and you attend that session knowing that, you know, you've got your PowerPoint deck and there's like 30 slides and you have to get through all 30 slides within the set window. And that's your goal. And, you know, you are wanting to drive that content home. As a facilitator, essentially what your role is to empower those people in the audience, be it in a physical event, be it in a hybrid event, or be it just in a virtual event, where essentially you are guiding and coaxing people to share their knowledge, their lack of knowledge, and actually then use the objectives that you want to teach by answering the questions, by driving that message through to them and working with them as a team. A virtually enabled environment should have a facilitator that draws the knowledge from the group and helps drive the audience's participation.
What would you add to that, virtual audience or here? What would you add to that? Are you comfortable with those definitions? Hybrid programs. Together but separate. I'm just going to stand up for a minute here. Actually, I'm going to walk. Is that cool?
That's fine by me.
So we have the individual in an environment like this. I have to come out of the light. I was at a session last time, and on Twitter someone said, I feel disembodied from the speakers because of the light. These are the type of concerns you see. So, hi, Betsy, individual, right? Here you are. Las Vegas, Boston, snow, 18 inches or 36 inches or something obscene like that. So we have the individual. So we need to think in the virtual audience and here that we are dealing with adults, we are dealing with individuals. Everyone comes with their own experience, their own schema, right? They all come with what they know. So we want to address the individual. Yeah, move ahead there. Then we have the group. This is a group, right? We are a group in this room. And next, we have the network. And this is what's different with this type of environment. In a virtual environment, you have more than just a group or a class. And of course, you have individuals. But with the network, everyone here that follows everyone on Twitter is also involved in this event. Whether they're attending the streaming event or not, they're still involved in this event. So you have a much greater audience. And that can be difficult to handle, but that can also be a wonderful thing because you have experts from all over that may have serendipitously stumbled upon the event and are now contributing. So you have a lot more to manage than just a group setting that you may be used to of in one place. You're scattered everywhere, and everyone, the person knows that's attending, that is using a tool like a Twitter or something like that. Everyone that follows them is also following you if they happen to be there at that time. So following
Let me speak to the dynamics of those groups, because as an individual, you learn a specific way. You may be a visual learner, you may be an audible learner, you may be a kinesthetic learner, so you learn by doing. But as a group, if you're asked to engage in a group activity, then a whole new dynamic is created. In the same way as you then work as a network, as a collaborative unit, then the whole dynamic may change again. And as a facilitator, it's your role to embrace the individual, the group, and the network as you are building the style and design of the programs that you are wanting to deliver.
So what we're talking about is learning on the social web and how this whole network dynamic changes things. So we can just see here quick on this slide that a lot of things are the same. We have individuals, groups, we have connections, we do have networks, right, because you know people. What's changing here is that we have a screen involved. So we have this graphical user interface, GUI, right? A permanent record, we have this serendipity element, and we publish differently. So we have people out there self-publishing content, or you could be doing it right here. Increased speed, greater reach, and new delivery channels. So just some of the differences. And of course, we've touched on that. You can go ahead.
Sorry.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about the design. I'm a practitioner. My background is all in corporate learning. I've crawled under desks to plug stuff in 5 seconds before something was going to begin. I've had Jeopardy in a room. I'm so embarrassed by it, but it is true. or created some online learning that was really the early e-learning that was nothing more than page turners. So I always think of in that context of being a practitioner of saying, well, how do I get there? Now, how do I do that? This is all great. I'm on board. I've been hearing that. Well, how do I start to do that? What does that look like? And what we get at is we're talking here all about technology. We're talking to a virtual audience. We're talking about the differences. But what we really need to keep at the core of that is what problem are we trying to address? Because it's not just about taking a situation and adding technology to it, or, hey, I've got a virtual environment now, what am I going to do in there? What can I bring in there? It's about what problem you're trying to solve. So I think that's the first element of design. And this, of course, changes our role. George Siemens is a professor at University of Manitoba in Canada, and I'm going to adapt some information that he has. He's done a lot of research in the area of teaching on the social web. So what kind of new skills are needed to teach on the social web, to teach this way where we have a hybrid environment and a different way of engaging people. First is to amplify. And I'm just going to, we're using here primarily to talk to virtual attendees. We're aggregating content from Twitter using that hashtag that we mentioned at the beginning. So what you're doing when you are in a hybrid type event, Emma would normally be, you'd have one person, in this case Emma or I, that would be addressing the virtual audience. Donna's here addressing the virtual audience. If a question comes up, she can stop us and answer it. Even better yet, you have someone there that is continually actually looking for those messages that are important. And I'm talking about this not as a 40-minute presentation, but a planned learning program. So you have someone that is available to amplify those things that are important. So people are talking, you're like, yes, exactly. Just as you would in any situation. So amplifying.
Do you have a question?
Go ahead. Can you put the...
Sometimes live speakers forget about the online audience. What are some of the suggestions for facilitators to engage the whole audience?
Why don't you all answer this one?
Yeah. Someone got an answer for that?
What are some suggestions for facilitators to engage the whole audience?
We, the moderators, similar to how this is set up, so that if the presenter doesn't forget, the moderator is there to flag it. Just like this.
And this is what is very hard to do. You've grown up, you've been in kindergarten, you have sat at a desk in rows, raised your hand when you had a question. That carries over into the corporate environment where you're in a room, someone is instructing you. Gets a little bit, there's group activities and breakouts and things like that, but you know, you know that verbatim. You don't know how to amplify a running stream of conversation that's happening within the event. So it becomes, these are just some new roles that we're talking about.
Another one, as a trainer, it is important to provide different ways of learning to capture all learning styles for individuals within a group. That's something that's very key. You know, if you're looking at providing a program that utilizes mentoring or utilizes breakout rooms, essentially there are different styles, different personalities that are going to be interacting within those environments. So one of the key things here is to actually pre-evaluate your attendees. Pre-evaluate the knowledge and understand the skills and also the styles of those people that are going to be attending your event. It's not about, no one booed there, it's not about the engagement of the actual session itself. It's about understanding who is attending your session. I could be delivering this exact same session tomorrow and I may have 5,000 people in the room. Just because I'm delivering the same content using the same slides doesn't mean to say I'm going to be delivering the same content, because it's the different personalities in the room or the different questions that are driving the virtual audience to get me to engage and respond to questions. And that's something that we have to remember. It's about understanding our audience. So utilizing tools to do pre-assessments, utilizing tools to get people to blog about their experiences, ask them to complete exercises or carry out quizzes prior to the actual live session, if that's what you're going to be utilizing, is a very clever way of understanding the audience that you're going to be speaking to. That is a shift in mindset for trainers. As a facilitator, you need to understand your audience. As a trainer, you're just there to deliver content. As sad as that may sound, that is essentially the role that the trainer has become. Now we need to look and really build a new skill set in ourselves to become facilitators and to understand our audience.
Let me go back to the slides. And I encourage you in the virtual environment to have conversations amongst yourselves. Go ahead and introduce yourselves to each other there on Twitter. Curating. This is a word that came up probably, 2 years ago, and it's to me it's got quite the buzz now. I don't know if it's just on my radar or if you're hearing it also. People with actual job roles that are curators. So really this is about filtering signals, knowing what not. There's so much information out there. So you have a virtual group, say at a hybrid event, and you are sharing information. You need to be able to, up front, find ways to pull the best information for people. So what you are is you are picking and choosing what the best information is. And often that's information your attendees, your learners are providing. So curating content. Another one is wayfinding, or know who. Finding your way. If you were, let's just say for the virtual group now, go open up another web browser here and just go look up wayfinding and let's see what that says. And then share that if you could in the feed with us. But really, it's again similar to curating, but it's helping people get through the information. So it's almost like you're a guide, you're a bushwhacker, you're there getting the information out of the way and helping them find a way to meet those learning objectives without just telling them, here are my objectives, right? Here you go. When you walk out, you will know, and I will print you a certificate.
So virtual audience, you were given an assignment there. We want to know what wayfinding is. So can you teach us? That's what we're asking you to do. Take some time and, do a little bit of research, and we'll come back and see what the feedback is.
And anyone in here with a laptop open? You have a laptop open. Have you looked up wayfinding? Behind? What are you finding?
Wow.
Okay.
I just learned something.
Can you repeat it for virtual audience?
Can we, I'm going to actually walk here with the microphone
while
so that
we're
we can
waiting.
read that out.
Now let's just say we had a wiki for this particular learning solution. Let's say this is some ongoing training. This would be a good way to have people now share the definition, create the definition of something called wayfinding.
So wayfinding encompasses all of the ways in which people and animals orient themselves in a physical space and navigate from place to place. That's the definition on Wikipedia.
Okay. A little bit different for us because it's not a physical space we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like in a virtual space? What is wayfinding?
Pathfinding is how you
Pathfinding?
how you navigate a virtual space.
Okay. So pathfinding, a way to navigate a virtual space.
Donna, did we have anything else?
You had the same exact one that she read off.
So was that the first hit?
Two different people said the same exact one.
Interesting. Okay. So we could dive a little deeper there if we needed to. So we could go out to the second or third page of our Google search and look for what's virtual wayfinding. What is that? We searched virtual wayfinding. And I'll just keep going while we do that, and we can circle back around. Aggregation, know where, be a human aggregator. What we're doing here with the Twitter feed and using the hashtag VES11, that's aggregation. Can you imagine if you had 5,000, Lance Dublin is over here, how many followers would you say you have on Twitter?
My mother.
Okay, so one.
Probably a couple hundred. I'm not in the actual Twitter.
So not at a million yet.
Lance thinks he's got about 200.
Family, relative.
But the longer you're, a couple hundred. Can you follow the ongoing conversations of a couple hundred people at once?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And most people cannot. So you use tools like aggregating content, helping to make sense, pick out the best content, and we can do that here using an aggregator tool. So we can just pull out from thousands and thousands and thousands of people, only those people talking about this. And you can do that with any word, with your own name. Want to be part of the conversation about you or your company, you can do that. But as far as learning human aggregator, provide a filtered stream. What does this mean to you? Virtual audience 2. What does this mean to you? Provide a filtered stream as far as hybrid learning programs. How about this massively populated side of the room? Provide a filtered stream.
For me, it would be
Do you want to go down just one sec? So we just want the virtual audience to be able to hear you.
Getting my exercise for the day. As if walking around MGM Grand isn't enough.
So for me, providing a filtered stream means kind of capturing, like aggregating, like you said, a bunch of content and information that's relevant to the topic. And then that's the piece is filtered. It's relative to the topic, it's streaming, it's constantly coming in, it's being provided by multiple sources and then being distributed to the audience.
Great. So that's like your virtual instructor in a way. If you've ever had who's had just like a great trainer comes to mind or teacher. It's like, oh my God, that person was great. They probably created some sort of stream for you so that you didn't go off in a million tangents. So here's the good information, and you're having a great conversation, and they go, ooh, what if? Come back here, right? So that's one of those skills. So even in here, in this very short session we're doing, which is just a snapshot, if we start to go off track, you'll see that's where we pull it back.
Something to think about as well is that when you are using a filtered stream in that way, and you're using your audience in order to control the content that you're discussing, essentially, you know, it's a great way to evolve the topic that you're speaking to, because everyone has different opinions, everyone has different thoughts, everyone has different values. So when you're actually doing training on different subjects, it's really very compelling to be hearing the voices and opinions of your peers to help drive the learning message that you're wanting to offer to the group that you're teaching.
And modeling. I'm sure you've all heard this before, and this is really no different from the modeling that you know of modeling your behavior, modeling behavior, but when you're working with this huge distributed audience and these networks beyond just your individual groups into this network, there's people out there right now that know as much more about this topic than we do. Now this is different for a teacher. This is different from an instructor going into a room and being the person that has all the knowledge and people expect that. What are you going to teach me? What are you going to tell me? It's very different in hybrid type events because you don't know who's out there. And chances are they're going to have good information to share, and you are doing those type of filtering of content, of amplifying, that you're putting those people together. So let's say you have someone out there with a tremendous amount of experience on this topic and they are just a valuable provider of information to the group. You're going to amplify that. You're going to bring that person in.
You know, since I became a facilitator rather than a trainer, each and every session that I run, I walk away learning something. And that's something that is incredibly key. You know that you've become a successful facilitator, and you're not successful every time. It depends upon the audience, it depends upon the topic. But essentially, I know that I've successfully facilitated a good training session when I leave having learned something from the session itself. Let's go back to the Twitter feed and see if anyone's got some additional information. Okay. Human aggregator, a new job description. Absolutely. Do you want that on monster.com? Human aggregator. I think that sounds great. Wayfinding encompasses all ways in which people and animals, so we've got that. Has anyone want to understand the virtual wayfinding? That's still a call out to you, virtual audience, and those people who've got your laptops. We want to understand that. And, okay, online with blogs, chats happening concurrently. Do you recommend having a moderator monitoring and guiding these streams as well? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very key. I mean, we've got Donna here who's signaling to us when there's been an update in the stream. As a facilitator, you're wanting to keep a handle on the pulse of the session, and having people assist you and guide with regards to the content that's being brought into your training session is something that's incredibly key.
Absolutely.
And, you know, using blogs, not just Twitter, not just chat, but using other tools within the virtual events platforms, as we're here at Virtual Edge Summit and really focusing on virtual event platforms, is something that we really need to leverage. You know, it's not just about Twitter. It's not just about a webcast. It's not just about streaming. It really is about using, as I said before, all of the tools that are available to you in order to capture the knowledge and help people train each other and teach each other. And informal learning can essentially take place very, very quickly and very effectively just by typing, you know, 128 bits, words, text.
140.
140. There you go. So, let's go back to the deck.
And relationships. Especially in corporate environments where learning programs, what you're really doing is creating relationships. You don't want to have to read every blog post, right? You're going to moderate these to some extent, make sure things are being kept on track if it's part of a larger program, but you're really helping people build relationships because you don't want to have to be in control of everything. You're giving up a lot of control. So what you're trying to do is create really communities of practice. You're trying to get people that are working together to work together on an ongoing basis. So creating relationships. And this is what's great with hybrid type events, is that you're getting that distributed workforce together.
I've got a great case study on that. One of the clients that I did some learning strategy consulting around, you know, building an effective virtual learning environment, offered a training course to their distributed workforce, essentially. And there was a need for them to be focusing on building out a specific innovation. And this innovation was something that could be different across cultures. So, you know, whilst the training was speaking and the learning was around understanding how to build that specific innovation, culturally, a different innovation was required based upon, you know, their global location. What was phenomenal about the way that the training took place within the virtual space was that two countries, essentially China and the US, that really have a very different cultural value. actually worked together as a collaborative unit and built one single innovation that would speak to both audiences. Now, that could not have been done in a physical space without extensive travel. It could not have been done in a community way within a virtually enabled mentoring scheme. But it was very powerful to see those two cultures come together within a virtual learning program where they were able to meet an objective that was set by the learning program, but actually do it together as a team, which they never would have been able to do had it been in a physical space. So relationships are really important.
Social presence. What is social presence? What am I talking about there? It's being there. We don't just approach these learning programs and say, I'm going to now set up, we keep using Twitter because we are using Twitter here, so I'm not just going to set up a Twitter account and just for this one program now I'm going to start tweeting and then I'll never tweet again. Having a social presence in these learning programs is about being where your learners are, so you're taking things to them. Twitter here has kind of just created a space for people. It was the easiest way in many ways to aggregate, so it just happened. So if you're there, your learners are there. If for some reason a Facebook group was a better choice, you needed to be there. So all these tools within your organization that you may have, you need to have a presence in there. You need to be there. Otherwise it comes time to engage, comes time to use these various tools to meet people where they are most comfortable communicating, and you're not there. So if you don't have a presence, an online social presence, I strongly suggest that you just get out there and tackle these things one by one and create your own personal learning environment. Get people that are your peers in whatever you do. If your area of specialties is marketing, find other marketing people that share your concerns and use it for your own learning. Let's go back to the Twitter feed here.
Virtual wayfinding. The use of search engines, links and media to navigate through the virtual world. Just what this means to me. Okay, that's from Rob. That's great. Carla, virtual wayfinding, search results with Secora, virtual wave classroom at the top of my list. Okay, absolutely. So it's really using search engines in order to, facilitate content.
Why don't we circulate and just, can you head out and we'll see if, what are you saying? I wish that they would have addressed, or I wish they would address, or I don't understand, or I need more information. What's on your mind?
What did we miss, guys? Come on, it's late in the afternoon. We must have missed something.
Engage.
I would just say that you are both great facilitators for this type of hybrid meeting, because you've done a really great job of engaging this audience as well as your online audience. They're both just as important to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Virtual audience, you too here with what haven't we addressed that you'd like to know, or what would you like to add? Who else? Something you'd like to know or share?
Well, something to add, and you were talking about it's about identifying the problem and solving the problem. It's not about pushing the technology. We run into that a lot in my office. It's also about creating a hypothesis. So if you have a problem and you think that you can identify the root cause, it's testing that hypothesis and not being afraid. I think a lot of people, particularly when you start talking about putting content on Twitter or Facebook or whatever out on the internet, there's a lot of fear about not being able to control the conversation. I think for us, it's all about hypothesis and being able to test those hypotheses.
How would you suggest people get over that fear?
Just go do it.
Just go do it.
Yeah.
The back to the modeling thing.
Yeah, it's very true, about just go do it. I mean, the reason that we're able to now offer virtual enabled learning programs is because people have tested the water. They've understood what works, what doesn't work, and we're still evolving in that process. I mean, essentially, I see 2011 as being the year of virtual learning. Not because WebEx and GoToMeeting, etc., have improved their package and program. It's because additional technologies are now available to us to really connect and engage with, the audience. And the audience can be physical, it can be virtual, and it's something that we really need to think about is that, we need to use the arsenal of tools available to us to build our virtual learning programs.
Great.
If I say arsenal one more time, you can boo me too.
We've come to the end of our time here. I think we're running a little over, so just any last thoughts and we'll wrap it up. And thanks for being a great group here. Appreciate it.
Just reading there a couple more feedbacks. Virtual wayfinding, the ability to find an online location in expedient manner and to recognize the destination when reached.
Oof.
I really like that. I mean, essentially, what we're trying to do is to build learning programs where it's a destination for people to go and learn, engage and do business. And that's really something that's very key. Just to wrap this up, tomorrow morning, Janet and I are going to be in the InExpo VBiz, actually running and continue this conversation with the virtual audience. That's one thing that's very key. When you deliver training within a virtual environment, the start date and the end date doesn't exist. Essentially, that conversation can continue. So 8 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to be streaming live, and we're going to be working with the virtual audience. And also, please join us by the InExpo booth so that we can continue the conversation as well.
Great. And I invite you to also pick up a complimentary copy of eLearning Magazine on your way out if you'd like a little bit more information. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, virtual audience.